Well, hey, everybody. Getting ready to record the podcast. So here we go. Let's do this. I have a dog sitting on my lap with her nose between the arm of the chair here. All right, here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 185 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast, and you can find me on all the socials at Be Our Guest Mike. Find me on Twitter, formerly, well, I guess it's X, formerly known as Twitter. I'd love to talk to you over there. I'm also on Instagram. Those are the two best places you can find me. I'm on Threads as well. But I would love to connect with you and love to talk to you throughout the week. So find me, hunt me down. Hope you're having a great week. Today's show is being recorded on Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. And I hope the show finds you well. Of course, it is Super Bowl week here in the United States. No live call-in show this Sunday night, so take the Sunday off. We will not do that because everybody's probably going to a Super Bowl party or watching the big game and stuff like that. I know I'm going to be going over to my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's house. We're going to have some wings from Wingstop, some pizza, just kind of get together and see each other. It's just going to be the five of us, six of us, I think. It's not a big party. It's just six of us watching the game and catching up. So, but that's what we're going to be doing. And just having an excuse to have a good dinner and some, get together. And so that's going to be fun for us. And we really don't have a dog in the fight this year. So it'll just be a fun Sunday night to see family. So hopefully you have bigger, better plans. Maybe your team is playing in the big game. Maybe you have a rooting interest. So I hope your team does well. And either way, we'll have a live call-in show a week from Sunday because I do love those shows. And that's going to kind of get to today's main topic here in just a few minutes. But I hope you're doing well this week. Hope you're having a good time, and hopefully the weather has churned. It is very nice here in the Midwest. I mean, holy cow. We were talking about ice storms a couple of weeks ago, super cold temperatures. Over the past week, it has been in the 50s and 60s here in Missouri. You cannot complain. I mean, it's like hoodie weather. Don't even need a coat. It's beautiful. I'm loving it. Riley's loving it for our, morning breaks when she has to go outside to take her walk and take care of business, and in the afternoons when she does the same, and it is nice out. So really can't complain. I think most places in the country we are getting lucky, except for California. We're praying for you guys out there. I know you're just getting torrential rains. I saw Knoxbury Farm closing early. Actually, I don't even think that park is open the last couple of days. Disneyland closing early. So hang in there, all the folks out in California. We are praying for you that everything kind of gets back to normal. So what's going on around here? Not a whole lot. We're kind of settling in. We had the big January with marathon weekend, Dopey Challenge, then came home for a couple of days, went out to California, did the Dumbo Double Dare kind of stuff, the 10K, the half marathon. I mean, that was like a once in a lifetime kind of experience with consecutive weekends, one weekend being at Walt Disney World, the next weekend being at Disneyland. I don't think I'll ever get to do consecutive weekends like that, on one coast, on the other coast. Just, a few years ago, it wasn't so long ago, I was scared to get on an airplane. And just the thought of going to Disneyland was something that was beyond me. And then, fast forward to getting to do that in consecutive weekends, over the course of about 10 days, I was at Walt Disney World and then at Disneyland. It really blew my mind that I got to have that experience in my lifetime. So I'm still reflecting on that because it was about a month ago at this point. Reflecting on that, and I've told some people, that I email with a lot of our listeners and a lot of my guests that I work with, the Magic for Less. And I think I've talked to a lot of my listeners, a lot of our folks via email about this. And the word I use is grateful. When I think about getting to do that coast to coast thing over consecutive weekends, because I know next year it's not consecutive weekends. I think the marathon weekend and then the Disneyland half marathon weekend, I think it's like 3 weekends, and it's going to be better that it's separated out, right? So you can get home and do some work and do your laundry and see your family. That was kind of crazy that it was like consecutive weekends, but it was crazy awesome to do once. But I'm grateful that I got to be a part of that. But I'm super grateful that I got to do that. So that was awesome. But now it's, February, beginning of February, just settled in. this is that time of year where it's just, if I ask you what's going on around here, not much. Mallory had her 16th birthday. She got her license. She has her first job. She's worked a couple of shifts. She's now working at a boutique, basically a women's clothing store that just she's shopped at a couple of times because her friends like to go there. And yeah, so it's one of those things like, there was a lot of change as January came around because her birthday was January 2nd. So like that happened all quickly. She turned 16, she got her license, she got a job. Cheerleading's still going on. They've qualified for game day in state, which is we're going to be going down to Springfield, Missouri, which is like 4 hours away here in a few weekends. And hopefully they'll win state in game day cheerleading. We'll see. We're crossing our fingers. We came in second overall few months ago. But we're really kind of in that time of the year where not a lot is going on. Cheerleading's kind of winding down. We're cheering right now for basketball, and our basketball team is super good this year. We didn't expect it. They're 18-3, ranked 6th in the state. So we should have a decent run in the playoffs here coming up here in a few weeks. But it's just, February football is going to be over Sunday. College football's been over here now for a month. Baseball hasn't started yet. It's just one of those things where there's not a lot going on in our lives, and you got to kind of think about things. And we're going to talk about that in the main topic, but I'll get to that in a second. So hold that thought. But let's get to the feedback from last week's show. We talked about renting those VHS tapes because I listened to that podcast that was about old school renting VHS tapes. Retro Rewind is what it's called, about people that used to work in old mom and pop VHS stores. It's a very cool podcast because it takes you back to the time, where you used to Friday nights were a big deal because you would go up and you look at the, wall and see what movies were in stock, which ones weren't. You get your candy. You'd have to carry around a little card in your wallet, your Velcro wallet, maybe a, whatever kind of wallet you had. And that was a big deal. And then if you rented a bad movie, you still watched it because you paid the money for it and you had to take it back on Sunday or whatever, you drop it in a little drop box. It was a whole deal. But here's the feedback we got from last week's show. John Luther, thank you for being a patron. I sure appreciate you guys so much for being here every month. It means your support on Patreon, guys, means so much. So thank you for doing this month after month. John says, this one brought back memories. I remember getting our VHS tapes at a local place called Video Signals. It was a good-sized store relatively early in the movie rental business. I remember being super jealous of people who had Betamax because the movies I wanted to see always seemed to be in stock across the room in that section. I can't say that I remember any candy or snacks, but this was in the very early 80s. Later on, I remember the local video store for renting DVDs too. I was in my first apartment on a very tight budget, and I go in the last hour of the day when it was rent one, get one free. It's definitely easier these days with streaming. Here's the deal though with streaming, and I don't have Netflix and I don't have Disney Plus anymore because I just watch sports. I do have ESPN Plus so we can watch Paige because all her games are on ESPN Plus up at UIC. But the thing is, it's like Apple Music too, right? You have 40 million songs at your disposal. But I think it's almost like paralysis by analysis or whatever they call it. Like I have so many songs at my disposal, I can't decide what I want to listen to. I don't know if it's like that for you guys with like movies, but when I have so many choices, I don't know what I want to listen to. Back in the day when I had like 15 CDs, I didn't have any problem. I always had something to listen to because I could pick from my 15. It was easier. But when I have every like song in the history of the world to listen to, I can't ever decide what I want to listen to. Maybe it's just me. Tell me, patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. Let me know if you get that same thing. I think it's easier when you have like a limited subset of what to watch or listen to. Trisha, of course, up in Wisconsin has some feedback. She says, I agree. I enjoy listening to Mike in the Midwest as much as the Big Show. Wow, thank you. I'm going to give you a bell for that, even though the bell's for the Big Show. I look forward to having the opportunity to provide feedback and hear from other listeners. I think it strengthens the community to get glimpses into others beyond the Disney topics. I love that because I truly feel like this is our little family. I wish the whole podcast was like this, but I love this so much. We rented videos from the library or family video. We had a family video right across the street from us at our old house. And I love, now this was later in the day when we were like, when I was married to Pam. So this was like in the 2000s, but I love that family video had free kids movies because we'd go up there and get Paige when she was little, free kids movies like Barney and stuff like that. And it was just like cool vibe in that store. Probably they had DVDs back. This was like when we were married and stuff. So this wasn't in the early days at all. Trisha continues. I just remember you could only borrow tapes for a limited number of days, usually 3 days, or for 3 days for new releases, or 7 for all the other VHS. My parents would only let us check out new tapes on Thursday or Friday. That way, we were sure to have them over the weekend to watch it and get it back before it was too late. Yeah, that was always the thing. You had to make sure you didn't get them in late, or else you get that big fine on your card, I think. Yes. Thank you, Trisha. Man, these are the days. Dennis down in Texas. The first place we ever rented VHS tapes was from the Deerbergs grocery store located at Clarkson and Clayton in Ellisville, Missouri. I know exactly where that Deerbergs is. And we shop at Deerbergs. Only our Deerbergs is on Mid Rivers Mall Drive, right across the street from our house, basically. While my parents would pay for the groceries, my brothers and I would scan through the videos available. If it was a night where there was nothing on TV or it was the weekend, we were generally allowed to rent a movie with their approval. I remember that they kept the tapes in those hard plastic clamshells. Exactly. It's exactly right. And you should have like an orange sticker that said Deerbergs on it. Yes. We had a laminated plastic membership card. Yes, I remember that. It was always like a bit of a treasure hunt to sort through the new releases and other older movies to find something to watch. This is why I love this show. You just took me there, Dennis. But now mine, when I was a kid, was in Florissant. It was at the corner of Washington in St. Ferdinand. It was right by the Knights of Columbus Park there by Florissant Meadows. That was the one my grandma worked at when she was even in her 80s. That was our Deerbergs because I grew up in North County, but now the ones at Mid Rivers Mall Drive 364. And finally, Trisha out in Indiana says, I had a similar experience as you growing up to the going to the video store on Fridays to get movies for the weekend. We didn't have a VCR for many years, but my grandparents did, and we would borrow it when we went to Florida for the winter. I was always bummed when they came home because we had to give it back. I remember our store had these paper bags on a nail in front of the movie if it was available, and you would take that up to the counter to get the movie. There was this one horror movie I always wanted to get, and it was never in. I'm not sure if I ever did get to rent it. Funny because I would never watch a horror movie now. I'm the same way. I will not watch scary movies. To this day, I do not like scary movies. Trish continues. One more comment. I know we all age ourselves with this podcast a lot, but when you were talking about Mallory needing dress clothes and called her pants slacks, I about lost it. My kids would be like, what are slacks? Pantyhose? Those are tights now. I don't think any of my girls have ever worn a slip under a dress. Oh, how times change. Love the show. Have a great week. So I don't know what any of this stuff's called, but I think I tell a story on, was it on the podcast? I think it's on the podcast this week, maybe Wednesday or Friday. I had to go to a funeral this week because my father-in-law's brother passed on unexpectedly. I mean, they're older, but it was kind of unexpectedly. So we had to go to a funeral, and it was during the day, during the week. And so I was trying to get my job. You know, I'm busy during the week with the travel agent stuff. And so Pam took off on Friday to go to the funeral, and she drove herself. I went behind her about 30 minutes later. Well, I've been working at home since 2017. And so you guys see me on camera all the time, right? Hoodies, hats, all this stuff, right? Pam moved all my teaching / church clothes like out of our main closet because I never wear them hardly anymore, down to the room with my treadmill on this big like extra rack. And she also moved all my dress shoes, like my church shoes and my teaching shoes is what I used to call them. So I went to get dressed for the funeral, and I could not find anything that was appropriate to wear that was other than Nike clothes and hoodies and like dopey challenge shirts. So I was panicking. So speaking of dress clothes, I was totally stressed out until I went downstairs and I did find appropriate attire for a funeral. And I found it at the last minute, but then I had to drive like 100 miles an hour to the funeral home. But I did make it before it started, so it was all good. But it's one of those things. You're right. I mean, you got to find the appropriate clothing. But now Mallory works at a boutique, so she will be using terminology like blouse, I guess. I don't know. I mean, she apparently at the interview when she interviewed for the job, the final question, because I asked her about the interview, I was curious, was that the interviewer asked her to put together an outfit for a mid 40s woman going to a cocktail party using stuff in the store. So she went around and like picked out, a top, a bottom, some jewelry, accessories they had in the store, and it had to explain why these all went together. And she got the job like immediately. So I guess she did a good job. I don't know. If they asked me to do that, I'd have been booted out so bad because I all I do is get picked on by my wife and my girls about how terrible stuff matches. I don't care. I mean, I know I don't, man. You guys see me. I know I probably don't. I'm the worst dresser, and I really don't care because I figure if you like me, you don't like me for my clothes because my hair is always a mess. I'm not attractive. Like I get that. I try to be nice, and I don't judge people for what kind of clothes they wear, and I hope you don't judge me for the kind of clothes I wear. I mean, I just wear sweatshirts and athletic pants and hats. I I don't judge anybody for how they look. I hope nobody judges me. That's just the way I look at it. Anyway, wow, that was a long way around. But thanks for the feedback. I love it. And if you have feedback about any of that stuff or today's topic, and I really hope you have feedback for today's topic, please leave it at patreon.com/BRGS podcast. Okay, today, getting back to the ordinary, because we are in this ordinary stretch of life where not a lot is happening. It'll get more exciting in the summer. We have vacations. We had all that going on in January with all the races at Christmas, and all that happens in December. It's exciting, right? Right now, it's kind of a stretch. So the other day, a song came on the radio. Well, it's radio. Again, how old am I? Slip, blouse, whatever. And it was a song I'd never heard. But I was walking Riley in the morning, taking her break, and this song came on. And I wasn't listening to Apple Music. I was listening to Sirius XM, one of my stations. And I'd never heard this singer before. His name's Larry Fleet. That's why the title of this show is called Thanks for the Reminder, Larry. Because have you ever had a song come on that maybe it's a song that you love and it hit you at just the right time? But this was ironic because it was a song I've never heard. And I was like, God, slap me in the face. Like, thank you. I was like, I don't know this guy. I've never heard this song, but thank you for the reminder, Larry. I have no idea who you are, Larry Fleet. He's a singer. But let me just read you some of these lyrics for 1 second because this really hit me and I hope it hits you to think about this just this week. I'm not trying to preach to you, but I'm trying to give a reminder. The song's called Things I Take for Granted. And here's some of the lyrics. It's a super simple song, kind of like me. It says, my paycheck could be bigger and cold beer could be cheaper. Well, I'd sure love a new truck, but I can't sell this beater. My freezer needs more deer meat. My grass could use more rain. But even on the hard days, man, I can't complain. I'm still living and breathing. I love the job I'm leaving. And I just hit 3 green lights in a row on my way home. And I've got a family that loves me. Someone looking out up above me. And I've still got some blue skies left to go. I'm the Webster definition of what a lucky man is. And when I take a look at all the things I take for granted. Sometimes when I get home, all I want to do is kick back on the sofa and kick off these work boots. I'm too tired to chuck the pigskin, tell a story, tuck the kids in, and stay up late with the missus, but I'm going to tonight. Well, I'm still living and breathing. I love the job that I'm leaving. And I just hit 3 green lights in a row on my way home. I got a family that loves me, someone looking out up above me, and I've still got some blue skies left to go. I'm the Webster definition of what a lucky man is when I take a look at all the things I look for granted. And it goes on. So when you think about it, The Ordinary, and I heard that song, and it's a good song. It's Larry Fleet, Fleet, if you wanna look it up. It's much better than me reading it. It's a nice song. But there's such simple things in our life that I know we take for granted every day, and I was thinking about this. You can look at things in a couple of ways every single day. You can say, "I have to," or "I get to." And I think this is a big perspective shift for a lot of people. You can say, "I have to go to work this morning," or "I get to go to work this morning." And I think just that change of mindset can change your whole day, right? I mean, I've always said with the podcast, and we started the podcast, it'll be 16 years next month, that every time I get to do a podcast, I get to do a podcast. I love to get to do the podcast. I hope you hear that every time we do a show. It has never been. We've done over 2,500 of those Be Our Guest podcast episodes because we had a whole bunch of live shows I didn't count as far as the number count. But I mean, I never take it too serious because it isn't serious. It's Walt Disney World. We're not talking world politics or, cancer research or anything that's, going to change anybody's life. We're talking about going on vacations and the best parts of life. We're talking about making memories, which is fun, and it's the best part of life. So why not have fun with it? There has to be some times where we laugh. There's been a few tears on the show because we've talked about a couple of trips way back in the day where the goal of the trip was that they knew this was going to be the last trip with that relative. They had cancer, they had a terminal illness, and they wanted to go out big. And we had trips like that. We did trip reports like that before. And it was, it was a celebration of life for that person. The family got together to do that together, but it was hard to do the show because it was sad. But it's the good part in life. So when you think about it today, do you have to or do you get to? Like, for example, every day you got to take your dog out to use the restroom 2 or 3 times a day, right? Like, I got to do that. That's my job with Riley. Do I have to take her out to use the restroom? Because Riley has this thing. She's a diva, right? She only goes number 2 at the lake. I don't know what the deal is with the dog. Like, she will not go, like, by her house. She's a diva. I have to take her all the way down to the lake, which isn't far. It's like probably a quarter of a mile. So I got to walk her down the little path. We got to go to the lake and we got to walk a quarter of a mile around the lake. It's a little circle around the lake. And then she, does her stuff. She does her business. So there are days where I just get like, I don't want to go all the way down there. But the thing is, I work at a computer, right? I'm a travel agent. So I'm at the computer, I'm typing and I'm sitting and I'm staring at a screen. And the thing is, the best thing I can do a lot of times is take that break, get outside. It's a sunny day and it's 50 degrees with a blue sky right now, and there's a slight breeze. Do I have to take Riley out for a break this morning before I recorded today's show? Or did I get to? Did I get to take? And it takes 7-8 minutes. Or did I get to spend time with this dog that I love? I love that dog. I mean, because Mallory Paige, this is Paige's dog. She lets us keep her while she's in Chicago. That's a blessing. I mean, Riley adds so much to my day because if I didn't have Riley here in the house, it'd be very lonely because nobody else is here with me. Mallory's at school, Pam's teaching. I'd be here totally by myself. She's my bud. So do I have to take her out or do I get to? I get to. Do I get to do I absolutely get to do the podcast. I don't have to. I get to, and I only get to because you listen to the show, you support the show. It's a blessing. You could look at it too. One thing really shook me, and I saw this for the first time on social media. And there's millions of examples of this. I'm just throwing a few out there just to kind of get your thoughts and maybe get you thinking today, because sometimes I want Mike in the Midwest to be a thinker. Today's a thinker. I saw this meme. I guess it's a meme. It was like a poster kind of thing on Instagram or it was Twitter or something. And I'm a sports parent, right? I mean, I've coached Paige all through school, all through, when she was little, and Mallory, I didn't really coach a lot because she was like into cheerleading, but I was always there supporting her. And I saw this picture of like a kid like a baseball kid. Yeah, I never had sons, but it was like a baseball kid. And the text said, someday there will be no more practices to take the kids to. And it like tore my heart out. Like I saw it like 5 years ago. And the thing was, I remember where we were running Paige and Mallory to practices every single night because Paige played select soccer. She was in every sport. Mallory, same thing, private gymnastics or private tumbling lessons for cheer. She was, she was coaching cheer in the next city. She was volunteering to be a coach. She was, always on the go with cheerleading, constantly. And we were running her here, there, and everywhere. And then she had games all the time, and we were just constantly on the go to go to her games. And then it hit me when I saw that meme, like all of a sudden, like a switch, there's not going to be any more games to go to. She's it. Like, this is it. And then it's over. So at that point, I realized you got to savor every Friday night lights. You got to savor every time you get to go to the H for a basketball game. You got to love these road trips where you get to go to these state competitions. And you got to even love when you get to go to a practice, and get to see the end of a practice, because these things are finite. When the kid, I guess what it's hard to see this. And again, I think it's because I'm getting older. I get it. But, when I was in my 20s and Paige was 8 and I was coaching her select soccer team, the amount of practices and soccer games was infinite at that time. I mean, she was playing on 2 different teams. They had 38 games that season, and she was going to play for years and years and years. And it felt infinite, but it did come to an end. Like one day there were no more games. She did stop playing soccer. So you really do, even at that younger time, savor it, because those are the good days. But again, I think it's that have to and got to attitude. You don't have to run a marathon. You're lucky to get to run a marathon or a 5K. You don't have to, but you get to savor that moment. You get to feel that last 500 yards going down the chute. And you have the opportunity every day to make somebody else's day. What can you do, to really make, your significant other's day? What could you surprise them? Small things. What's a small thing you could do to go out of your way to make somebody happy, to surprise them? It doesn't have to be a big deal. Just really try to make somebody happy. You guys, I just got to say, like, our listeners, when you support the show, I still can't believe that we have the listeners that we do. We have listeners all over the world. And all we really do is just talk from the heart about how much we love Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and stuff like that. We're not polished. Ricky, Pam, Scott, and I, we're not. But I love that we are all in this together, all of our listeners and us. We truly do kind of all have this common love of our families and of these vacations that we create at places like Walt Disney World, Disneyland, on our cruise ships. And I'm so glad that we have this common podcast that we can come back to multiple times a week. And I love that I have the get to, because of you guys. I get to do this. I don't have to, I get to, and it's the best part of my week. So I just wanted to leave you with that. Think about this week. What are the things we take for granted? I have an old Jeep. It's a 2012 Jeep, over 100,000 miles. I love that sucker. I do take it for granted, though. I mean, I don't have to have a car. That thing's reliable. And I mean, I love that Jeep. In the summer, it's like when I was a kid, I would have loved to say I have a Jeep when I'm older. And I've had a Jeep since I was like in my mid-20s. I've had 3 of them at this point. I get to take the doors off in the summer. The top comes off. I have a convertible. Like, that is a dream for me. Does it have to be like a brand new 2024 Jeep? No, I don't have a payment on that Jeep. It's paid for. Does it have a few dinks and dents in it and, the little paint chips and, stuff like, yeah, but it's character. It's fine. I love it. I take it for granted. I enjoy the heck out of my Jeep. I love that sucker. Like, I don't have to have the neatest stuff. I love that, when I get my new clothes, it's at Christmas, it's my birthday, and it's at Father's Day. That's the good life. That's how dads should be. So what are you taking for granted and what can you really kind of soak in this week? What are those lessons Larry's telling you this week? That's what I want to know. So give me your feedback, patreon.com/be our guest podcast, and just know you're probably living the good life too, because I know I am. And it's a lot because of you. And I just want to say thank you to you this week. All right, we'll get back together again next Tuesday. You can count on that. So until then, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.